guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I will be talking about all of my most anticipated reads from April to June of 2020. Let's just get started because there are a ton of books to talk about. The first batch of books I have to talk about all came out on April 7th, which is the day that I am filming this video. The first book I have to talk about is The Southern's Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix is a pretty prominent horror author and he writes very kind of satirical comedic horror from what I have seen. This one seems to be, from the brief information that I have about it, follows kind of suburban moms or suburban middle-aged women who start up a book club and a vampire moves into their neighborhood, and that sounds amazing. I also really love the cover. I'm a sucker for anything peach related. I love me some suburban drama. I have dabbled in pretty much all of the Real Housewives franchise universe, and so if it gives me a taste of the drama with vampires, I am very excited about this. The next book I have is You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogle. This one is a contemporary romance following two people who are already planning their wedding, and in the midst of planning their wedding or in the midst of their engagement, they realize that they don't want to be with each other anymore, but the person that breaks off the engagement has to pay for all of the wedding stuff, so they are trying to pull a 10 Things I Hate About You kind of, where they're both trying to get the other one to break off the engagement first, and along the way, of course, they learned that they do indeed love each other, and I'm sure they get married in the end, but it's like a lovers to enemies to lovers again, and I think that sounds so fun. I really like the cover. I love the concept. I think it gives a lot of opportunities for angst and sexual tension. This one just sounds really fun, and I always like to spice up my reading with a few romances here and there just to break up all of the fantasy that I read, and this one just sounds really freaking cute. The next one I have is Sin Eater by Megan Campisi. This one is a historical fiction set in the 16th century England, I believe, and it is blurbed as The Handmaid's Tale meets Alice in Wonderland, and I think we follow this girl as she just gets swept up in a royal conspiracy plot. I don't know much more beyond that, so let's just read the description together. It says, for the crime of stealing bread at 14 years old, May receives a life sentence. She must become a sin eater, a shunned woman brutally marked, whose fate is to hear the final confessions of the dying, eat ritual fruits symbolizing their sins as a funeral rite, and thereby shoulder their transgressions to grant their souls access to heaven. Okay, so just based on that, it kind of sounds like Beast Made of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi, which I really love. That one kind of follows a similar concept where our main character eats the sins of people who have done wrong. So I really kind of love that, and I love the cover. I want more books to do oil painting-esque covers. I know that you shouldn't read a book just based on the cover, but if you know any books that have an oil painting aesthetic to their covers, let me know down below, because I am a cover whore. I have a whole book club resorting to just reading books based on their covers. I would like to see them, I would like to read them, and thus hopefully love them so I can own them. Thank you for your contribution. I definitely don't read as much historical fiction as I would like to, considering that I love history, but I'm hoping to amend that, and this is already a historical fiction that isn't set during the World War, so it's already up there in my priority list and has brownie points from me. So now we're gonna fast forward to April 21st with The Ranger of Marzana. This is an adult fantasy, and all I know about it is through the title, which is Marzana. She is a Slavic goddess of death, and she is one of my favorite non-Greek goddesses. I have never read any books centered around Marzana. I know Wicked Saints has a very Marzana-esque character in it, but all of the goddesses in Wicked Saints are own world mythology from what I understand. But regardless, I would like to read a fantasy book centering somehow or revolving her somehow, because she has a beautiful aesthetic of ice and winter and death, and she is a very fascinating goddess to behold. So I would love to see what a fantasy world kind of does with that. Let's read more of the description though, just so I can see what it really is about. When their father is murdered by Imperial soldiers, two siblings set out on opposite paths. One will destroy the empire forever and the other will save it. In this thrilling new Russian-inspired epic fantasy from John Scovron, Sonia is training to be a ranger of Marzana, an ancient sect of warriors who have protected the land for generations. But the old ways are dying and the rangers have all been forced into hiding or killed off by the invading empire. When her father is murdered by Imperial soldiers, she decides to finally take action. Using her skills as a ranger, she will travel across bitter cold tundra and gain the allegiance of the other forces strong enough to take down the invaders. Okay, so it seems like a political fantasy. It sounds very much like Baron the Nightingale, and I love an icy winter aesthetic. I love like political intrigue. I love a badass female character. So really this checks all the boxes for me. Now on April 30th, we have The Switch by Beth O'Leary. This is the author of The Flat Share, which I read last year and I really enjoyed. This is basically Parent Trap, but with female neighbors, and one of them is a 20-year-old woman and then the other one is 79, and they swap places. I don't know anything else more than that. I don't know if there's some sort of romance that goes on. I don't know what like the underlining plot is. But that sounds really interesting to me, especially because I've never really read a story centering around older women, especially not women that are almost in their 80s. Like, that is not something I have ever read about, and I think it would be really interesting to see. There's just a lot of opportunity for this to be really fun and cute, and a nice little examination of different age demographics and all of that stuff. I don't know, it just sounds like a cute time, and like I said, I did enjoy The Flat Share, and I really liked how Beth O'Leary paired very kind of heavy topics with this nice fluffy romance. So hopefully I get similar feelings and I also enjoy this one as well. Now we're moving on to May, starting with May 5th, and the first book I have is Meet Cute Club. This is an Own Voices male romance between two bookstore employees, and they kind of have like an enemies to lovers kind of scenario. I don't know if it's full on enemies, but there's definitely that tension there. And they start this Meet Cute Club, and one of them is very cynical and one of them is very much a hopeless romantic. It has the sunflower meets badass type trope, and I really love those dynamics in my couples. So this just sounds like a cute time, and say it with me, the cover's beautiful and I like it. So this one is definitely going to be read. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be really cute, and I've heard really good things about Jack Harvin as an author, so we have a lot of expectations right off the bat for this one. The next is another like contemporary romance, which I didn't realize how many of them that I was anticipating, but here we are. I have The Life and Medieval Times of Kit Sweetly. This one is a contemporary romance set in a medieval times restaurant, and I read Well Met by Jen DeLuca last year and I really enjoyed that one. That one is a contemporary romance set during a Renaissance fair, so very similar vibes here, and I am all for it. As I've said, I'm a history nerd. I love Renaissance fairs. I've never been to medieval times, but I've always wanted to, so this just sounds really cute, and honestly, I would be very surprised if I didn't end up enjoying this because I did really like Well Met. Next, we have The Mermaid, the Witch, and the Sea by Maggie Takuta Hall. This one is an Asian-inspired fantasy centered around pirates and mermaids and the sea. I always really enjoy books set on the sea, near the sea, all of that. It's pretty much my prime aesthetic for my books. The Goodreads description says that it is a desperate orphan turned pirate and a rebellious imperial daughter find a connection on the high seas in a world divided by colonialism and threaded with magic. Oh my god, I just got way more excited reading that synopsis. Gilded Wolves is one of my favorite YA fantasies, and a very heavy theme about that book is imperialism and colonialism. And the way that Roshani weaved those very crucial and important themes into this fantastical world, oh, it's a masterpiece. So if Maggie can even do a semblance of that, I am going to be all for it. Love to see it. I am so excited. Like, how could this book go wrong? I don't know, and I don't anticipate it doing so. And just look at this cover. Oh my god, it is stunning. I love it. Next, on May 12th, we have Girl Serpent Thorn by Melissa Bashardors. This one I know is a Persian-inspired fantasy with a female romance. I don't know anything more than that, so let's look up the synopsis together. It says, a captivating and utterly original fairy tale about a girl cursed to be poisonous to the touch and who discovers what power might lie in such a curse. We love that. We love to see it. That just screams a we can't touch trope, so it just creates more sexual tension and angst. Bless. Oh my god, thank you, Melissa, for giving the gays what they deserve. I have read her previous book, Girl Made of Snow and Glass. I didn't end up finishing that book, I believe. I believe it was a DNF because it wasn't what I was expecting it to be. It was pitched to have a female-female romance in it, and although it did have it, that wasn't the central part of the book. So I'm hoping that this does not happen with Girl Serpent Thorn and that it is more of a forefront in the story. It doesn't have to be the central part of it, but I would like them to get together before like the 80-90% mark that happened in Girl Made of Snow and Glass. So if it does give me that, and if it gives me the sapphic vibes and the sapphic feels that I need and deserve, this is going to be a great one. And again, the cover. The YA snake is living her goddamn life, and I'm here for it. I am so supportive of her, and I love her, and will buy any book that she appears in. Also on May 12th, we have The Scapegracers by Hannah Abigail Clark, and this one seems to give me a lot of like The Craft, Heather's vibes, and it is about an outcast teenage lesbian witch finds her coven hidden amongst the popular girls in her school and performs some seriously badass magic in the process. Yes, I recently read Foul is Fair by Hannah Capin, and that has a very similar friendship dynamic where the main character and her friends are a part of a coven, of their own coven. And I mentioned in my review for that book, which you guys will be seeing on Friday, I mentioned that I wanted more of the friendship dynamic and the friendship aspect, so hopefully this one gives it to me, and it sounds so cute, it sounds so campy and fun, and a great time. And now on May 19th, we have Beach Read by Emily Henry. I have been excited for this book since I went to the Brittany Caballero and Emily Henry signing. Emily Henry mentioned that she was in the process of writing this book, and it is about our main character, who is this very prominent romance author, and she is having a lot of trouble writing her next book, so she goes to her father's old beach house in efforts to finish her book. But while she's there, she finds out that her college rival is her neighbor, and he is also a published author who writes literary fiction. And they are both having this case of writer's block, and so they have decided to write each other's genre. It sounds like the rivals to lovers excellence of my dreams, and I have heard such amazing reviews from Madeline and Chelsea. I feel like without even reading the book, this is probably going to be the most hyped rom-com contemporary romance of the year, and I'm so excited for it. I just trust Chelsea and Madeline with my whole soul, so I have no doubt that this is going to be absolutely amazing. Now we're on to June, which is truly the month of the gays. And speaking of the gays, my first book that comes out on June 1st is Queen of Coin and Whispers by Helen Corcoran. This one, I just know, is a female YA political fantasy. So let's see a little bit more. It says, when teenage Queen Laya inherits her corrupt uncle's bankrupt kingdom, she brings a new spy master into the fold, Zania, who takes the job to avenge her murdered father. Yeah, pretty much like I said, it's a political fantasy, which I love to see. We love a romance between a queen and a spy. That sounds like it's gonna be juicy, and it sounds like it's gonna be fun, and I would like to read about it. And this cover, again, beautiful. The UK covers, unmatched. Now on June 2nd, we have a ton of books releasing. The first being The Damned by Renee Ahdieh, which is the sequel to The Beautiful, which I love so much. The Beautiful is about Celine as she escapes her home in France after murdering her attempted rapist, and she ends up going to New Orleans, and she ends up getting caught up in the Court of Lions. And this Court of Lions are very suspicious individuals and very mysterious, and definitely have something extra to them. And while she gets caught up in the Court of Lions, there is this serial killer going around New Orleans and murdering women. I have been so excited for the sequel ever since I read the ending of The Beautiful, so I am eagerly anticipating the sequel. And just talking about this, I am reminded that I forgot Ruthless Gods by Emily A. Duncan. This comes out on April 7th, again, the day I'm filming this, and I pre-ordered this book, but mine isn't coming until April 17th, unfortunately. This is the sequel to Wicked Saints, and it is an Eastern European inspired fantasy, a very dark, gritty, goth inspired fantasy. It has to do with gods and blood magic and all of that stuff, so that is also a anticipated release that I definitely forgot to mention. Back to June 2nd, we have The Dark Tide by Alicia Jashinska, probably pronouncing that wrong. This is another female YA fantasy. Isn't 2020 just the year of lesbians? I am so happy about it, and I'm so blessed. The blurb says it is the wicked deep meets a curse so dark and lonely in this gripping, dark fairy tale fantasy about two girls who must choose between saving themselves, each other, or their sinking island city. So it is a female romance fantasy set on an island. Could this get any better? I have an arc of this waiting on my Kindle, and I am so excited to read it. It will be in an upcoming arc release vlog, so definitely stay tuned for that. But this one sounds amazing, sounds very atmospheric, sounds very gay, and that's all I want and deserve. Speaking of island aesthetics, the next book is A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow, and this one I just know is about black mermaids. You don't need to grip me anything else when you just have mermaids somewhere in your synopsis and your cover, because that's all I need. I love mermaids, I love an island aesthetic, I love a book set on the sea, as we have established during this video. It says, Tavia is already at odds with the world, forced to keep her siren identity under wraps in a society that wants to keep her kind under lock and key. Never mind, she's also stuck in Portland, Oregon, a city with only a handful of black folk, and even fewer of those with magical powers. At least she has her bestie Effie by her side as they tackle high school drama, family secrets, and unrequited crushes. It seems to be more of like an urban fantasy, which I'm not a fan of necessarily, but if it has mermaids, I mean, I'll take anything I can get. This just sounds like Aquamarine slash H2O, but with actual diversity. So what could go wrong? I don't think anything could. Next, we have A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne Brown. This one is a West African inspired fantasy. The Goodreads description says it is the first in a fantasy duology inspired by West African folklore in which a grieving crown princess and a desperate refugee find themselves on a collision course to murder each other despite their growing attraction. Okay, Roseanne, we love that. That sounds delicious. That sounds like The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller, which I recently read and really enjoyed. So, folklore, enemies to lovers, murderous tendencies. Sounds like an amazing time. Now we are moving on to June 9th with Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This one is such a highly anticipated read for many people. It is following a trans boy as our main character. It is own voices for the trans rep, and he, I think, summons like the goddess of death, or he summons like a ghost or something. Let's just read the synopsis together. When his traditional Latinx family has problems accepting his gender, Yadriel becomes determined to prove himself a real brujo. With the help of his cousin and best friend Maritza, he performs the ritual himself and then sets out to find the ghost of his murdered cousin and set it free. However, the ghost he summons is actually Julian Diaz, the school's resident bad boy, and Julian is not about to go quietly into his death. So, yeah, amazing. But I do know, based on like the pre-order campaign, that La Muerte does make an appearance, and I am very excited to see that. I have such high hopes for this one. I really think I'm going to enjoy it. The cover is stunning. The synopsis sounds like so much fun. It is diverse, its own voices. I don't anticipate this being a disappointment. I really don't. Now on June 16th, we have The Circus Rose by Betsy Cornwell, and this one is a queer retelling of Snow White and Rose Red, in which teenage twins battle evil religious extremists to save their loved ones and their circus family. So it's queer, it's a fairy tale retelling, it has to do with religion, it's set on a circus. Like, this sounds so good, and I haven't heard anybody talking about it, which kind of scares me a little. How could this not be good? I want this right now. Also, I forget another one. On June 2nd, Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis comes out. This one is like Moulin Rouge meets the Night Circus, and I have an arc of this one. It's just not with me currently, and it is the most atmospheric and beautifully written book, and I am loving it so much. Also going to be in that ARC releases vlog, so really you definitely need to subscribe and make sure that you know when that comes out. So love that one. That one is also an anticipated release of the year. Next, on June 25th is a book I'm so excited about, and that is Such Big Teeth by Gabby Hutchinson Crouch. This is the sequel to Darkwood, which is a middle grade fantasy fairy tale retelling. It's very reminiscent of like Shrek, and we're following Gretel from Hansel and Gretel as she is banished to the Darkwood, which is like this mysterious, dangerous forest, after being accused of witchcraft, which is illegal in this land. And once she is banished to the Darkwood, she learns that there has been very many misconceptions about the Darkwood and the creatures in it, and her and the people that she meets in the Darkwood have to team up together to defeat the witch hunters and protect the forest from them. I love this book so much. It has such cute and fun humor to it. There is a slow burn female-female romance to it. It's not necessarily confirmed, but I would be surprised if it doesn't end up happening. I think it deals with feminism in such an applicable and easy to access way for kids, and like I said, it has very like Shrek humor elements to it that is just really fun. I really enjoyed this book, and it was one of my most underrated books of 2019, so I am so excited to see what Gabby does with the sequel. Finally, the last book that I have to talk about comes out on June 30th, and that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have a very complicated relationship with this author. I have read Gods of Chain and Shadow by her, and I have also tried to read Certain Dark Things by her and couldn't really get through it because I don't really jive with her writing style, but this one just sounded too good to pass up. This one says that it is a reimagining of the classic Gothic suspense novel, a story about an isolated mansion in 1950s Mexico and the brave socialite drawn to its treacherous secrets. It just sounds like a really fun, cozy, mysterious, gothic mystery thriller. If I have the same problems with her writing as I have with the other two books, I may not like this, but the cover and the synopsis, it just sounds like a good time. And I also really love Jocelyn from Yogi with a Book, and she is such a big fan of Silvia Moreno Garcia that I can't help but want to be excited to read her books because of how much Jocelyn loves them. So again, I'm gonna give this one a shot. I'm excited to try it out, and I hope I really enjoy this one. Whew, that is it for this video. I told you guys it was going to be a long one. I had a ton of books to talk about. I hope you guys found a couple that were put onto your radar. Let me know down below what some of your most anticipated releases of the year are. It doesn't even need to be in this time frame that I mentioned for this video. I love to learn about new releases to add to my never-ending TBR. It is truly my favorite thing. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!